Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 25 of the Health Movement Podcast. Thank you all for joining us again. So excited that we're still doing this. I'm Derek. I am a certified personal trainer and a teacher of over 20 years.
I'm Tim. I'm a certified athletic trainer, national registry ENT, and a wellness coach.
And before I introduce our guest, and I'm not lying, I'm incredibly excited to talk to her today. We're not doctors, so things here are our opinions, what we think, and before you're changing any nutrition or new workout programs or whatever you happen to do, check with your doctor, please. Also, you can find us over at the Health Movement Podcast on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you may find it. I'm sure you're listening on one of them. So obviously you found that. You can jump over to our website, healthmovement.us, and sign up for our newsletter on there as well. So I'm going to introduce this guest. I'm super excited. Carly Kane is with us. She is a professional BMXer and the first professional athlete in over 20 years from Huffy. Carly, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
I just got to start and ask how you got going with BMX and what led you to this being a profession.
So my dad raced motocross when he was a kid, and he got my sister and I into BMX. I was 8, my sister was 6, and I actually I was not interested. I didn't want to race. I had no desire whatsoever. My sister was the one who was pretty excited to try it, and she ended up hating it, and I ended up loving it, and here I am.
Nice. And how old are you now?
I just turned 23.
All right. It's 15 years. That's great. Yeah. So how often are you doing this? You said you're in Indiana.
Yeah.
I imagine the wintertime in Indiana, are there indoor tracks that you start going towards, or is it all indoor? Like I'm very new to all the BMX world.
Yeah, the Midwest winters are tough. So usually I'm traveling a lot, and so I kind of avoid part of the winter at least. 2 years ago, I went to Florida for a month. Last year, I was actually in New Zealand and Australia for a month, and so I got summer, which was wonderful. And then I actually am gonna go to Florida for 6 weeks. I leave on Saturday, so it'll be nice. I'll have some nice weather to train in. It's hard, November, December, I'm always here because, Christmas, holidays, all that stuff. And you just have to kind of make the best of it. I've been riding, subpar tracks. There is one indoor track, but there's no heat and the roof leaks. So it's pretty
awesome.
It's not really indoor, but you got to do what you can with what you got. So that's what I do.
Nice.
Can you give us a little insight? So what are the variances in distances, or what's the typical amount of the overall distance that you end up riding, or obviously different terrains or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we have different tracks, but honestly, usually it's anywhere from 30 to 42-ish seconds for a lap, no more than that. And we have qualifying rounds. And so usually it's 3 qualifying rounds, total points, and then you transfer on to the next round, whether that's quarterfinals or semifinals, and it's top 4 from each of those rounds transfer on. And so the final is the best 8 of the day. And so it's always 8 people in a gate for a full gate. Now, for qualifying rounds, you don't always have that many people, but for a final, you always have 8.
And how many? I missed how many total laps? Is it just one, or is it?
So it's 3.
Does it vary?
3 qualifying laps, and then depending on how many riders you have, you'll have semifinals, quarterfinals. Sometimes you have 8th finals, but usually that's just for the men's class. Usually the women's class doesn't have that many. And then the final. So it depends. It can be anywhere from 4 to 8 if you have a ton of riders. So it just depends on the race day and the size of the race.
So it's not super endurance.
No.
I mean, it's quick burst kind of.
Yes, it's all anaerobic, explosive power stuff.
Yeah.
I was watching a couple of the videos. How varied do the tracks themselves get? I know distance changes, but in terms of obstacles and jumps and bank turns and everything.
There's a lot of variation. There's also variation in some turns are dirt, some are paved, and then there's also limestone tracks. There's dirt tracks.
Oh,
There's tracks that are made of like the surface is glue and sand. And so it's like
that's kind of cool.
it is. It's a super hard surface. It's paved essentially. So if you crash, it's not fun.
No.
Yeah.
Have you had any bad crashes? Any injuries that have kept you out for a bit?
Yes. Definitely have had my fair share of falls on the BMX track, but my worst one was actually racing pump track, which is a different discipline. Pump track is it's a paved track. Some of my videos that you may have seen on Instagram, I'm riding a pump track. You don't pedal at all. You just use your body weight to get around the track. And
Okay.
I kind of had like a front wheel washout at the World Championships in Santiago, Chile. And
Saw that video.
yes, it was not good. I didn't have any time to react. I remember falling, and it's funny because it's not funny, but I crashed in practice at that track. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm falling again. And then it was just like, boom, lights out. I was knocked out for, I think, a minute and a half. I had a seizure on the track, and I crushed the tip of my collarbone, which I don't know how I didn't break it, but I just like crushed it. So, that one took a while, and the collarbone was not that big of a deal, but the concussion was really bad. I had to have like a month and a half off the bike, and then when I started riding again, I was having a bunch of balance issues, and I ended up seeing that my pupils were different sizes, and so I had to do a bunch of vestibular physical therapy to kind of like help with the fluid in your ears or whatever. And that's why my pupils were different sizes. But yeah, it was a process, and I was like, I didn't race for like 6 months. I rode as best I could, but it was hard mentally and physically.
I imagine.
That was a little over 2 years ago. Is that what that was?
Yes, that was
How long ago was that?
of 2022.
So it's just about 2 years ago. So I mean that's a lot of the stuff. I've worked with a lot of TBI kind of stuff, and it's a long road, and there's so many different components to it too that you have to. The vestibular stuff is tough. That's a tough. There's a lot of post concussive symptoms that go with that. It's definitely, especially doing something that like you're doing, where it's quick motion, really depends on balance. Like that's a hard road to come back. So aside from the vestibular stuff, like did you do any physical therapy, or did you do any like balance training, or did you see any like concussion specialists or anything like that?
I went to a few different concussion specialists. I talked to a couple of people who work with USA Cycling, and it was really just like I didn't see anyone in person except for like just the regular doctor that I went to get my MRIs and stuff. And they did MRIs of my brain and my collarbone too. But it was hard because some of the stuff was virtual, and obviously I don't think you get the full understanding of like what's wrong if it's not in person. And like it was horrible because every time I went off the lip of a jump, I felt like I was falling over to one side in the air. So the lady that ended up giving me my vestibular physical therapy, it was virtual, and I still do it. Actually, I do it every single day. I feel like I have to just to stay on top of it. But it's just balance stuff. I just like stand on each leg, close my eyes, and like turn my head up and down, side to side, and just 30 seconds on each leg, and then 30 seconds with like my feet touching, and that's it. And I've made a routine of it. but yeah, that's all I really did for the pupils.
And
did they balance back out?
Yeah, they're back to normal for the most part. I think my left one still adjusts to light a little bit slower, but they're not different sizes anymore. And it was pretty significant. Like, especially, it was weird. When I got tired, it would be way, way different. And then in the morning, it would kind of even out a little bit. And then throughout the day, it would change again. It was I don't know, very weird.
That must have been shocking the first time you noticed it. You're like, well, that doesn't look right.
Yeah,
something's off.
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who had a bunch of concussions from BMX, and he was talking to one of our mutual friends together, and we were like, oh yeah, like your pupils are different sizes. And so like jokingly, I was like, oh, are mine? Because like I had a concussion, and they looked and they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? Like, this is horrible. So
Ah.
that's how I found out.
That's crazy.
Well, and
Yeah.
especially going through something like that, like if you talk about people at the USA level or those kind of athletes have whole teams of doctors or like people that they can see in person. So going through that over virtual visits and stuff like that's a challenge. So it's like it's a testament to you to put the work in, and that's the thing. Like you're talking about putting in the still doing the vestibular stuff. Like some a lot of that stuff is it's got to be especially after something like that, a serious injury like that, and then what about your shoulder? Did you have any complications with the shoulder? Or you just kind of waited for the bone to heal and you were good, or
Yeah, I mean, I think I have scar tissue in both my shoulders. I separated one, and then I just, like I said, crushed the tip of my collarbone in the other. I didn't ever do like physical therapy for that. Just, I think the more you use something, the better it feels. So like whenever I have an injury, if I'm doing something in the gym that requires me to use that body part, I'm like, sweet, we're making it stronger. So I mean, it doesn't bother me much anymore. Sometimes doing cleans, if my elbows aren't coming through great, like I can notice it. Like I'm like, oh, my elbow's gotta come through better, but it doesn't, there was no complications from that.
That's awesome though that you're able to self-regulate there as you're doing the different functional movements
Yeah.
and realizing like, all right, I was off. Let me figure out why, and then you kind of fixed it and go from there. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people just keep doing it the same way and keep making it worse and not doing anything about it.
I think I learned
I
from trial and error.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. You don't want too much error because that's when you
Right.
get hurt too much. But
Right.
talking about training, I have to ask you about your hat you have on, Cool Mitt. We had Craig Guile on episode 11 or 12 or 13. I don't remember what it was. Incredible guy, incredible
Yeah.
product. And obviously you're familiar with it if you're sporting the hat. So shout out to Craig
Yes,
in the
thanks,
Cool
God.
Mitt. Can you tell us a little bit about your training?
Yeah. So, well, let me start from the beginning. So I actually
Awesome.
had an
Perfect place.
Instagram follower who sent me a Huberman podcast episode, and it was the one about the Cool Mitt, because Huberman
I
has
remember that. Yep.
yes, and I remember like getting the podcast and opening Spotify, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like 3 hours long. I'm not gonna listen to all this. That's crazy. Like, and turned it on. I started listening to it, and I was hooked. And I listened to the entire thing. I was like, wow, like I really want to get one of these. And so after I listened to it, I emailed Cool Mitt, so Craig, and I told him that I wanted
Yeah.
to get one. And so I ended up getting my hands on one. I started using it, and it's crazy like how much it does change the way that you feel during training and after training, especially when you're doing stuff where you are getting that muscle burnout. So anyway, I started just doing my own thing in the gym. I didn't have a coach or anything. And then I reached out to Craig because I was wanting a strength coach specifically for, what I do. And so he actually got me in
Yeah.
contact with my current strength coach, and he's the strength coach for the Washington Wizards. And so Craig is like my go-to. If I need somebody, I'm like, hey, do you know anybody like who's, who can help me with this or whatever? But
That's not a bad idea for
yeah,
us
yeah,
too. Reach out to him.
yeah. He's got connections
So
and oh, go ahead.
how often are you like, do you still use it frequently?
I do, yeah.
Is it part of your regular training?
So yes, and it depends on the block of the gym that I'm into. And it's hard in the winter. I was telling Craig when it's cold, like I don't get nearly as hot, obviously. Whereas like when I
Yeah.
go to Florida, I can't wait to have it with me because I'm gonna be, dying of heat. So I'm used to the winter here now. But especially like on race days, it's been really helpful because I'll look at my Whoop data and my heart rate just will like stay at 110 for like an entire race day. And obviously our laps are short. Like I said, it's 30 to 45 seconds, but we have anywhere from, 30 minutes to an hour and a half in between laps. So if my heart rate stays up all day, like I'm exhausted, I'm completely fatigued. And
Yeah.
so when I use it and I have my hand in there, I can usually get my heart rate down to like 80 on a race day with the adrenaline, and that's huge because it's saving energy. It's cooling me down, and so you recover a lot faster, and also I'm not wasting energy, you know? So that is the biggest thing, I think. And then I used it during a crazy training block. My coach had me in this insane training block where I was doing sets of 20 for like 15 different movements. And I was like, are we supposed to train this way? Like, I'm supposed to be explosive, you know? And he sent me like all of this information about like sprint training and how this would help. And so I was doing
Yeah.
this insane volume, and it was unbelievable the strength gains that I saw in 3 weeks with using the Cool Mitt during that time. And I also, my resting heart rate went from like 54 beats per minute down to 38. It was unbelievable in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I've never ever seen gains like that in such a short period of time. Now, that's not sustainable. I was literally lifting 6 days a week. And it was just a 45-minute session. It would murder me. And, you know, the gains were insane. That was actually when I was coming back from the concussion, so I wasn't doing a ton of on-bike stuff, and we were just conditioning. But it was crazy. So yeah, no, I really, really value the Cool Mitt, and it helps a lot, especially like I said, with that higher volume stuff.
And it's incredible that you could, especially with the Whoop. We've had a conversations about the Whoop on here because I'm about probably 2.5 months into using it myself.
Oh
But
gosh,
you're
I
your
love.
own case study. Yeah, yeah. I like. I don't have the fancy band yet, but
Oh,
I'm
you'll
Oh,
kind of
she's
get
showing you up there.
you'll get there. I have.
but that's your well, that's the whole thing, you know. So, but I love it. And I've told Derek like it's made me it's motivating me, but it's also like I'm a bit obsessive about it too. But with the Cool Mitt, like you're your own case study. You know what I mean? It's like you can track it yourself and track your data, and that's a big the big aspect to being able to see that, like tangibly see those results and know that it's you know that you're feeling the difference, but then also being able to see the difference on paper makes a big difference too. So
Yeah, and that's huge.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love proof, you know? Like, I wanna know why I'm doing something. So, I would love to. Craig was talking about using it before you go to bed because, like, you have to get your core body temperature down to go to sleep, obviously, and I haven't
Oh, that's
tried it, but
true.
I want to try it. I should try it. There's no reason it's sitting in my room, like, I need to
Yeah,
try
it's
it.
an easy time to do it.
But
You just have
I
to
would like.
remember. It's
Yes,
usually like
exactly.
you crawl into bed and you're like, oh,
I'm
shoot, I
comfortable, yeah,
forgot. And
but I am.
yeah, you're not getting up at that point.
Exactly, yeah, you're in bed, you're good to go. But, I'm wondering if I would see. I'm sure I would see an impact with the sleep score on my Whoop, you know?
Yeah, see, I have an Apple Watch and Tim keeps trying to get me to go to the Whoop, but
Right.
this works for me and I'm happy, but I do love the data.
Yeah,
And the more information you have, the better it is. And I'm even thinking of like writing down workouts and your rep ranges and your weights and tracking
yeah,
your meals. And also like if you realize, all right, I'm not feeling great, and you can look back at what you've been doing, what you've been eating, you can
yep,
usually find a pattern or a reason for it. So the more
yeah,
data you
definitely.
keep, it's like running a business, you know, you want to keep as much information as you can so you can see trends and see what works and what doesn't.
Well, the
Yeah,
other thing with that, and not to get off topic here too much, but the Apple Watch, like they kind of feed off of each other. Like your Whoop will pull stuff off your Apple Watch too. So
that's true.
just throwing that out there. But that's it does.
They're not sponsoring us
Yeah,
yet.
I know.
Oh,
But like, but it's like, you know, honestly, I'm the nerd with both on at the like. My wife loves to make fun of me for
wait, you
having
have
both of
both
them on at
on?
the same time. Yeah, well, if this isn't a watch, you know what I mean? This is just data. Like the watch is like so much
Wait,
more.
hold it up. Let me see both of them on you.
No, it's charging upstairs, so it died when I
Okay,
was halfway through my workout. So,
I
but
got you.
but that's that's the kind of stuff that it does. Like the data behind what you're doing, especially when you're at your level, Charlie. Like you're looking for that 1%, 2% difference that's going to set you apart, and that's it's a big difference maker for sure.
Do you
Yeah.
tell any of the competition when like you're sliding your hand in the mitt and they're like, what are you doing? Or do you like hide in the back so nobody can see you?
I've had like, I'll tell people if they ask. I usually,
Okay.
though, I'm kind of, like, in my tent and, like, people don't see it that much, Well, I think
Okay.
that's intentional or not, I don't know, but no, but I have told people about it, and I like I said, I'm sold. I think it's hard for someone to see the benefits without using it. And I can say the same, actually, kind of going back to our concussion thing. I just started wearing, I don't know if you guys have seen like the Q collars. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's like
I feel like I have.
yeah, there's a lot of football players who wear them now, but it's like a rubber and steel band that goes around your neck and it squeezes your jugular. And I started wearing it last year,
Yeah.
and that's something that I should have brought up when you're talking about concussions. But I am completely sold. I used to get headaches all the time just riding, like even before my concussion. I just prone to headaches. Don't get headaches anymore at all. And I just, yeah, I'm fully sold. It's supposed to make your brain retain more blood so that if you hit your head, you essentially have like more cushioning. And my dad was like,
Oh,
oh, like, no way, like that's just placebo. And I was like, I'm just gonna try it.
yeah.
And so I got one from him, and it 100% like sold. But again, that's something that like if you don't try it and you see for yourself, like it would be hard to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get one of those.
That's awesome. Now, I've been trying to learn the software a little better. Can I show a clip of you racing and actually see if it works?
Sure, yeah, we'll try it.
Is that all right? I'm going to
Yeah.
try and share the screen here. I'll try and describe. Where is it? Oh, here we go. I'll try to describe what we're seeing in case you're on Spotify or whatever. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
All right. So Carly's going down. You have to watch this though, because and I like the slow motion effect in it too. And the one coming up right here, I thought was a great view, the head-on view. But like this is everybody's dream to be able to do this. And I am like, I'm not, I won't say jealous, but I'm a little jealous because I had the GT Performer. It was like this neon blue with mag wheels and pegs on the front. And I would go down my driveway, and then that's as fast as I would. Like we'd go down the street, but
Yeah.
we'd hit these little jumps that are like 6 inches high. You're like, dude, you see how high I got? And you'd be so excited. But then I watch you doing that, and I'm like, wow, I was such a wuss. I didn't
No,
do
I did the
anything
same
cool.
thing when I was little. Don't worry. On my Barbie bike, I had a Barbie bike.
Yeah, when I was little, that's what I was doing. This wasn't last week or anything.
No, but I'm saying like I did the same thing, even though I was a little bit younger. I did the same thing. So.
Yeah. No, that does seem incredible. Do you have any races in Massachusetts? Because I imagine that's a hotbed of
No.
BMX biking. No.
No, I think
No.
there's
Okay.
one track in Massachusetts. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have a lot of motocross, but I don't think we have a lot of like BMX racing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's not
There's
a lot of BMX racing. Like even here, even when it is summertime, I drive 2 hours to Louisville or an hour and 20 minutes to Columbus, Indiana. So there's nothing close that's you know, like there's a couple small tracks, but there's no big tracks close to me. So I'm driving pretty far to practice.
No. And how frequently are you doing that?
I mean, in the summer, usually 3-4 days a week. And then in the winter, it's literally whenever I can. So it's less, but if I have a week where it's 3 days or 4 days that it's nice out, like I'm going to go ride 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, that's a heck of a commute.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it sucks.
if you were really serious about this, you would just ride your bike there.
I
Give me
know. What am I doing? Slacking.
So when do the races start picking up?
So this
Or
is
they
yeah.
going
What's your
on?
schedule?
So usually it's pretty much year round. Like last year, I raced my last race of the year over Thanksgiving weekend. It's always Thanksgiving weekend. And then last year I left for New Zealand on like January 26th. So it's a little bit of time off, but not really. This year I don't race until the end of March, which is awesome. I've never had like an actual off season. And so I'm excited. Like I want to get some good work put in and have a solid base going into 2025.
And where's that race? The one at end of March?
That is in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So that's actually where
okay.
the World
Love
Championship.
Rock Hill.
Really?
I was just there last. So I used to work as an athletic trainer for a basketball team, and we did a tournament at Winthrop, which is in Rock Hill,
Yep.
Winthrop College or University. So we spent some time down there. I was there for an entire weekend before Thanksgiving last year. So
Yeah, so that's
it was,
where the World Championships were this year too. They were in the States, which was really cool.
okay.
Yeah.
So what are your aspirations with this? And like how I guess I don't know much about the professional circuit with BMXing. And now I'm gonna start paying attention to it a lot more closely. But where are you in terms of your profession and where you're heading with this?
I mean, honestly, and it's kind of like it's a bummer because I wish I would have started taking BMX more seriously sooner. But so like this year I got 6th at the World Championships. If I would have got
Wow.
3rd, I would have had an automatic spot for the Olympics. Which was a bummer because because I came out of the first
Wow.
corner in 4th. So I came out of the first corner in 4th, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm one spot off right now, and then 2 people passed me, ended up 6th, and it was like bittersweet because I was really, really close, and I didn't even like believe that I could be in that position, but also I had never had like a national plate as an amateur. I'd never had a world plate as an amateur. This is my first year as elite, and so to be a first year elite and get my first world plate ever is like awesome. So because
Yeah,
they only
that's a huge deal.
yes, and they only give out 1 through 8 because it's 8 people in the final. So there's not like there's not a world, 9 through whatever. Like it's literally just top 8. And so it was really cool. Like I said, it was bittersweet because I was so close, especially like when I came out of that first corner in 4th. I just remember being like, "Oh my god, this is crazy," you know? So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I want
When was that race?
that was
Like
in
when was that qualifying race?
May. So that was the
Oh,
world
so
champion.
you had only been back riding for like about a year after, right? Or if that,
Yeah,
since the injury.
so I got injured in then November of 2022. My first race back from that injury was May of 2023. So yeah, it was almost exactly a
Yeah.
year. And actually, it was crazy because so I raced World Champs, and then the next weekend I raced in Nashville. And Nashville, the year before, so my first race back from my concussion, is where I got my very first pro podium on the USA BMX circuit. So it was cool because it was like, wow, like in a year, like, I've got, way more podiums and now I'm world 6. Like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. So it's cool to see yeah, it's cool to see the progress in a year. But back to what I was saying before, it's kind of a bummer because I didn't start taking it seriously at all until 2021. Like, I had never done a gym session in my life. I had just rode my bike for fun, and I didn't really care about like being fast. I just wanted to ride my bike and have fun and screw around
Yeah.
and so 2020 I turned pro. Have the pro class, and then they have the junior elite class. This is going to be a little confusing, so if you guys have questions, let me know. So junior elite
Okay.
is 17 and 18-year-olds, but it's birth year. So it's not based on your actual birth date. It's just the year that you were born.
Okay.
So I'm born in December 4th, which is horrible for
Oh, happy
my
birthday.
UCI birthday. Thank you. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yes, so all of the girls that I
Because
race,
you're the younger ones.
yes, and well, I shouldn't say
Yeah,
all, but majority of the girls that I was racing, they were still junior elite, and I was not junior elite anymore. I had to either be pro or continue to race amateur. And so with junior elite, you can race junior elite and you can race amateur. And the difference is you're racing off the pro hill for junior elite and you're getting that practice on the bigger hill. And an amateur, you're racing on the smaller hill. So I, being probably a little bit stupid, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go pro, like this will be great. I'll get practice on the big hill. I'm gonna turn pro. Like all will be well. And so I turned pro, and immediately they canceled all of the races because of COVID. And so they had all of the pro races canceled, but they still had amateur races. And so at these amateur races, I could race a pro open, but I was racing against men. And I don't know if you've seen any men BMX racers, but it is not a close race. so, so anyway, that whole year I just kind of like, again, rode my bike, had fun. I was like, I'm gonna be good. Once I race like, girls in the pro class, 2021 hit, and my very first race, I was like, wow, these girls are fast. Like, I'm gonna have to do something. Like, if I wanna do something with BMX. And so,
Yeah.
long story short, which wasn't really short, but I started training pretty late, and I feel like I'm still catching up, But I do wanna, I wanna go to the Olympics in 2028. There's no reason.
I was just going to ask that, or is that still the goal? But
Oh, for
that's
sure.
awesome, though. You've got 4 years to plan it out. You know what you need to do. You got Craig and the Cool Mitt. You got your coach, and you can set up a plan. And now you know, or you're learning, you're improving on. All right, I need to do this for this reason. It's going to take this amount of time.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
super exciting.
I got like 1,282
Olympics.
days or something. So
So the
But
2028.
who's counting?
no, not me. I don't know.
That's great. Is nutrition playing a big part in this now too, or is that something you're focusing on in terms of training?
Yeah. So that was kind of an ordeal. So after May of 2023, I was like, okay, I wanna start like actually eating better. And I love food. Like, more than anyone, I love food so much. I will out eat anybody, and I can't even express to you like my happiness is food. I love it. So anyway, I was like, I want to, start tracking and kind of having a plan. And so I reached out to this person who had given plans to some other athletes in BMX, and he was a bodybuilder a long time ago. Super fit guy. I was like, okay, yeah, this seems right, He gives me my macros, and I leaned out probably way too fast. I lost weight. I was like, wow, like I feel great. Like, I'm super lean. Like, this is awesome. Like, this is what I want. And then I started having like a bunch of issues because I wasn't eating enough at all. And so like
Oh.
like it was not even close to enough. And it was like I had my calories set at like 1,700 calories. I burn like,
Oh yeah.
it was low.
With
Now on
how
the
much
whole,
you're exercising in the intensity of the races and everything,
yes.
that's
So
not, you need a lot.
not good. Yeah. And so I like felt great for like 2 months. I was like, this is awesome. And then after 2 months, I was like, I feel really like like bloated, and like I'm holding on to stuff. Like, I just feel kind of horrible. And it wasn't that I had like gained weight back, but I didn't feel like I looked the same, and I cared about that. Whereas like you shouldn't, first of all, like I'm an athlete. I shouldn't be worried about like physique. I'm not a bodybuilder. And so,
Yeah.
even though that would be really cool at some point to be a bodybuilder, so maybe. But again, I like food hard.
After BMX,
Yeah.
you can turn to that.
Yeah, but so I kind of like kept with that, and I kept eating that amount of calories, and I was just kind of frustrated and super irritable because, again, like I like food, and I was just restricting. And so back in November, I ended up meeting with a nutritionist. He's actually Iowa State football team's nutritionist. Super cool dude. And he
nice.
kind of got me on the right track. So my calories, needless to say, are a lot higher now. I'm a lot happier.
Good.
I feel like I've got a lot more energy in the gym. And it was crazy. He said I was drinking too much water. So I was drinking like over a gallon a day, and I'm a small person. And so I was just I just was very, very bloated. I didn't feel good, and I didn't know why. Obviously, eating more helped with that, but also drinking a little bit less helped with that too. But yeah, nutrition it's a big part, and I feel like I have like a little bit of a new outlook on it since November because I was doing everything wrong for what I do,
Was that your first time seeing a nutritionist?
Yes, like an actual certified nutritionist, yeah. And I put it off for way too long, and I just kind of thought like, oh, I can do this myself. And, I just, no, like I needed somebody to tell me and give
And
me information.
and that's what I'm talking. That goes back to, again, you talk, these Division I athletics programs or these professional sports programs, like they have all of this set up in a program, right? And they have their athletes doing all these things. So in this type of sport or the environment that you're in, you don't have that necessary support system to maximize that performance too. So that's where, just trying to dial all that stuff in is going to make that'll make a huge difference for you
Yeah,
performance wise. Like that's, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say I'm really excited, especially because, like I said, now I have like this building block in this off season, and like before I was trying to build on, you know, not even eating nearly enough, and so now I'm gonna, hopefully have some extra juice,
Yeah, and you
Well,
can. I was just gonna say you can like pack on some muscle now in the off season, and then
Yeah.
work on the, more the power condition. Well, if there's sprints, you want to build that explosive muscle as much as possible. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be great.
Yeah,
and then you go back to those 3 weeks that you were talking about where you saw those gains and those, you're doing 6 workouts a week. Like if you're not fueling that correctly, you're not going to get as much out of it as you possibly can. So now if you think of, if you're doing, you got your training dialed in with your nutrition, and it's a deadly combination.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and especially because like I was actually I just started working with an actual like sprint coach for my on bike stuff. So I still have my strength coach, and then I have my sprint coach too. But I was just talking to him about this, and it's weird. Like I feel like I'm more inclined to like be better at lifting for volume, and so like naturally, if I am doing like a 10 rep max, I can increase that amount so much more than a single rep max. So I'm actually hoping that I see gains with my like, 1, 2, 3 rep maxes instead of like my higher volume stuff, because in this sport, like it doesn't really matter. That stuff's just for conditioning. You know what I mean? For the most part. Like you just want to move
Yeah.
weight fast. And so I'm hoping that, I can kind of move the needle a little bit with my heavier lifts.
Yeah, and I've known a good number of strength coaches that barely ever one rep max anything. We'll just go off of 85% or whatever your 3
Yeah.
rep max.
Yes.
It's like it's just doing the math equation where it's just, you know what I mean. So it really is just trying to figure out, what works for you and what works for your sport,
Yeah.
and and that's where it's. Are there people that are specifically like, have you like your strength coach you said was the Wizards strength coach? Is that what you said?
Yes, he is.
So that's like, those are 2 different sports, two different, very different athletes, it's, you're working with, I mean, I worked in the basketball realm, for a couple of years, and that's you're training those athletes differently than any other athlete that you're working with, because they're literally, trees. They're
Yeah.
they're
So what's
trying to get a tree to do a squat,
Yes, exactly. So, and it's totally different. It's funny because I'm 4'11". So I have, me, and then my coach was coaching, super tall basketball players. But no, so when I first started working with him, he was a collegiate strength coach for a collegiate basketball team. And right from the get-go, I was like, I am not a basketball player. Like we need to figure out what's going to work for me. And so over the past couple years, like we really dialed in what we are doing, and he knows what I need and like what is required of me for my sport and what I need out of my gym sessions. So we've been able to like refine everything that we do. I know why I'm doing everything. Like that's a big thing for me. Like I have to know why, and I have to be able to
I
like.
love that you asked him too when you were doing the high rep stuff for
Yeah, I was like, I
12,
called
15
out.
different
I was like,
different
what is this?
exercises. I love that though, and that the fact that you asked him and then he knew what he was talking about. It wasn't like you weren't challenging him. I can't imagine. It was more you want to know why you're doing what you're doing so you can continue to improve.
Totally, and he's
I think
super
that's
like
huge.
receptive to that. And we're virtual, obviously, but like if I need a 2-hour explanation of why we're doing something, like he will hop on the phone and give it to me. Like he is super, flexible and will change things if I don't like something, and it's good. It's a good partnership we have.
What do you want to give him a shout out? What his name is?
Yes, I will. BMX racers listening?
You don't have to. I don't know if that's allowed.
No, I'm just kidding. His name's Matt Johnson, and he's awesome. So he's
Matt Johnson. Oh,
yeah, he's fantastic.
sorry, I'm just writing that down.
All good.
Okay.
And so,
So you've got your strength coach, you've got
Mhm.
your nutritionist,
Yes.
you've got your recovery guy with the Cool Mitt going on there. That's most of it. Are you sleeping? Do you make sure you get your 7 to 8
sleep.
hours of sleep a night?
I mean, I'm lucky. I don't usually have to set an alarm, so I get my fair share of sleep for sure. I think I could be better about it. Um, I actually just got my mom was like reading about grounding sheets and she bought me one for Christmas. And so I just started using a grounding sheet. And the first night, actually, that's not true. I've been using it for 4 nights now. And seriously, I have never had so many dreams. I was like, Mom, it's like I go to bed and it's like a movie. Like I just keep dreaming. Like it's insane. So I'm liking that
Oh,
so far.
that's funny.
But yeah, no, I'm lucky to where like I
That's
said, I don't usually have to set an alarm. And so, if I'm getting to bed a little bit later because I'm riding late at night 2 hours away, like I can sleep in. But I would say typically, I don't know, I like to go to bed early. So like usually it's like 10:30 at the latest.
that's early. Oh
At the
boy.
latest. At the
Like
latest.
8:30 shows up. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired.
No, usually I'm like, cuddled up with a book at like 9, but like 10:30 at the
All
latest.
right. Okay. Okay, that's good.
Well, and that's another thing that the Whoop has made me kind of obsessive about is the sleep, and
Yep.
it's constantly telling me I need to go to. I wake up early, so it's constantly telling, especially like I'll look at the peak time, right, and then I'll
Yeah.
look at it before, but so it's like I'll change it, but I'll look at it before my workout, and then I'll look at it after my workout, and it's like a full hour earlier that I have to go to bed. I'm like,
Oh my
come
gosh.
on,
Better
and
pop.
I wake up at well, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes it's like, hey, you gotta go to bed at 6:15. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like I just can't. Like it's not possible.
Yeah, and mine's the same
That's
way. I'm
funny.
like, "Oh my gosh, how am I supposed to hit this 100% sleep?" Like, I don't think I could sleep that long even if I wanted to.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm probably going to show my ignorance here, which isn't anything new. But how old do people or how long do people usually ride for in terms of their age? Is this like mid 30s, 40s?
So, BMX is it depends on the person for sure. Right now the current
Yes,
world
yeah, yeah.
champions are 33 and 34 years old. So, um
Oh, okay.
it's a pretty old sport, I would say. I shouldn't say old sport, but like, you can ride for a long time so long as you don't, hurt yourself. Um but yeah, like I always, like I said, it's a bummer that I didn't take it seriously earlier, but at the same time, like, I have to remind myself that I have time, you know? It's hard to see people
Yeah, you
like,
just turned 23, you said, right?
yeah, but it is hard
So
to
the
see.
the trials were at 22. You'll be at 20. You'll be 26 for the next ones. Like
Yeah,
you've got a couple more runs in you here.
yeah, for sure. But it is tough to see, you know, girls my age or girls younger who like did get to go to the Olympics this year and people who like I compete with and it's like like FOMO like oh my gosh watching the Olympics was horrible. It was like the worst thing ever. So it's like oh my like I have to be there next time or like there's gonna be a problem like I have to.
That's what you need sometimes, though, is that reminder. Like, all right, this is what I want. I didn't get it this time, but I'm
Yeah,
getting it next time. So get out of my way because
yeah,
But again, and think of where you are from May till now, right? And
yes,
just the things that we've talked about, and just dialing all that stuff in, and now you've got 3 years to really work on it. Like the 3.5 years, like that's a long time. That's a and like you said, like and I think that the thing is like you mentioned injury. Well, you get hurt in any sport. You're gonna
yeah,
get hurt. You're gonna have nicks, aches and pains, but then you also have serious injuries like you've already dealt with. And half of it is just how you bounce back and how you react to it, right?
yeah,
And doing the things and putting the time into to make yourself feel better. And that's I think that's a big thing where I saw a quote from, I don't know if you follow the NFL at all, but Michael Penix, who's the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
And I think he had 3 torn ACLs of the same knee or
Oh my God.
in college. And so, but he said, I would be more worried if, people, I mean, he basically was like, I understand where people are coming from, but he was like, I'd be more worried about the person that didn't get hurt and hasn't overcome those things. I'm not saying that you want to have those things happen, but at the same time, like, you find out a lot, and I'm sure you found out a lot about yourself going through that process
Yes.
of you probably hit some of the lowest points in your entire life, and you have to pull yourself out of this hole that
Yeah, for sure.
is hard and it's not easy. And
Yeah,
but think of where you come from there,
exactly. And I think that's like,
It looks
obviously,
like
like
he
you said,
had
you
4.
oh,
Oh, go
Go
ahead. I
ahead,
was going to
Carly.
say, it looks like he had 4 season-ending injuries,
I was like, what? For
which
what?
is
So,
rough.
yeah, no, that is
Boy,
but,
no.
but I think that, you know, you're completely right. You kind of have to go through those things because looking back at any injury that I've ever had, like, yeah, it sucks, but also like it it created me the way I am now. It made me the way that I am. And 2022, at the beginning of 2022 was rough. So, and the end, because I, killed myself on a pump track. But the beginning, I was gonna go to Florida for a month, had a race in Florida, and I was gonna stay down there. And so, my boyfriend and I drove down to Florida. I raced the first day. The second day, I separated my shoulder. And so I was like, well, I mean, I guess I have to drive home now. And so it was really funny. And he's gonna not be happy that I said this, but um he's 5 years older than me, and his parents never had a manual growing up, like 6-speed. So he does not know how to drive a 6-speed. My car is a 6-speed. So and I separated my right shoulder. So
And you
we
can't shift. Yeah.
So, and it was bad. Like I didn't realize how much you use your shoulder until you don't have one, and then I'm like, gosh, like what am I gonna do? So he was originally gonna fly home, and I was staying in Florida with friends. So he canceled his flight, and we drove home together. But we had to drive through a snowstorm, and I had to drive with my arm, and so I was like driving. I
Oh,
would grab the bottom of the steering wheel with my bad shoulder. I'd reach over, shift with my left hand. I was like, oh
oh,
my
he
god.
must have felt awful the whole
Yeah,
time too.
yeah, so it
That's
was
not
it
a
was
quick
pretty cool.
10-minute drive. That's an
Yeah.
adventure.
Well, and
It
it's not like you can and you can't learn how to drive in a snowstorm either. So it's like
No.
it'd be different if you could go to a Walmart and try for like a couple hours and try to teach him how to do it. It's like where you're coming through something like that. That's pretty wild.
so it
Oh,
was horrible though because it was a 17-hour drive to West Palm, and we drove to West Palm, and so we had
huh.
rain on the way back, and then once we got to Knoxville, it was snow so bad that we had to stop. And so that was the bad part because it was like, oh my gosh, we're 5 hours from home and we can't get home because of the snow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I had that injury. I trained through it like as much as I could. I couldn't do
Yeah.
front squats or anything, but I was still back squatting. I put a band over top of the bar and I was holding the band in the front of my, chest. And then my very
Wow.
first race
Yeah.
back, I was feeling really good. And for some races they have like an A final and a B final. So in like the semifinal, if you get bottom 4, you go to the B final. And so it was raining at this track, and it was actually at Rock Hill. They have a lot of races there. And the corners are really, really slick when they get wet because they were sealed. And I probably shouldn't have raced the B main. It doesn't really count for anything. But I was like, no, I'm gonna race it. And so I was in second going into the first corner, went for a move, and crashed. So again, very first race back, broke my hand long ways. So like my first whatever this metacarpal or whatever. Uh,
Metacarpal.
yes,
Yeah.
broke that long ways, and they misdiagnosed me because they thought it was my scaphoid because you couldn't see it on an X-ray. And so I was like, no, like it's definitely my hand. Like it's not my wrist, it's my hand. And so I had to wait like 2 weeks before I could get it casted. And so then I had that happen, came back, obviously didn't feel great. I'm coming off 2 injuries. and then I had my concussion at the end of 2022. So it was kind of a rough year. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it made me, like I said, you need those things because it made me the way that I am now, I think. It's character
And
building.
even maybe, I know it sucks right now having to watch the people in the Olympics and you not being there and everything, but maybe that also, maybe that was a level of motivation and lit kind of a fire to pursue this even more and, hook up with the nutritionist and get everything going. And so maybe, and it's kind of a blessing in disguise that
Oh yeah.
sucks right now, but in 3.5 years when you're taking the gold, maybe that's one of the reasons why.
Well, I mean, everything happens for a reason. Like that's like 100% I
Yeah.
believe that everything happens for a reason. So, you know, my sister always gets stressed out about stuff, and I'm like, why are you stressing? Like, just chill. It works out. It always works out. Like,
Yeah.
chill.
That must go over well too. So okay, big sis, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't get real happy when I say that, but
Yeah, no, that's funny. Well, we're about 50 minutes in here. We don't want to keep you forever. Harley, we can't thank you enough. This was awesome. To have you on. Where can we watch these? Are they televised? Are they streamed online somewhere? Like, how do we watch these
so
races?
the USA BMX races are streamed on YouTube. Nothing's on TV besides like the Olympics, obviously, and that's once every 4 years, so that's not gonna help. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they have some of the races like actually broadcasted overseas, but nothing here. So yeah, just YouTube basically is the best it gets.
All right, because we definitely want to stay up to date and stay in touch and see how all this stuff is going for
Yeah,
you. So
totally.
Yeah, maybe
please,
follow up in the during the season and have meet up here again and see how
Sure,
they're doing,
I'm down.
see how
that would
things are going.
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, thank you very much. How can people get in touch with you if they want to follow you? Is it just your Instagram
Yeah, so
account? Is that the best way?
Instagram is my main platform. Everything that I have though is Carly Races BMX. So TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. The only thing that's not, I think, under that handle is Facebook, and it's just Carly Kane. My athlete page or whatever is just Carly Kane.
I'll put all that stuff in the show notes so people can find it.
Perfect.
But again, thank you so
Yeah,
much. It
no,
was
you're good.
such a fun time talking to you. So we're
Yeah,
excited to see.
no,
Awesome. We'll
it's
be
been
in touch,
fantastic.
I guess, in a few months to see how everything's going.
Perfect.
Awesome. Oh, and thank you. I always forget the outros here, Tim. I had to put an extra one in on our last show because I forgot to do it. But thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. Head over to the Health Movement Podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcast. Head over to the website, healthmovement.us. Sign up to our newsletter and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night or day or whenever you're listening to this.